Welcome to the Flux Dev Meeting for June 13th. We're just getting the agenda together, and I am not sure who would like to speak first, but we've had a little bit of discussion ahead of time. Does anyone have a topic for the agenda?
Yeah, so let's add first the RFC that Dipti made and was merged today. Then I think Adam wants to talk about the new cloud events RFC, right?
Yep, I just want to bring it up, have a very quick discussion about.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, on the RFC front, I think Stefan and I just discussed a little bit, but again, I wanted to kind of thank everybody, Sunny, Sule, Stefan, Victor, all of you to pulling together to kind of get the RFC completed. Thank you for all the guidance and your contributions in kind of getting this through. It's been a year since it started. It's great to kind of see it done. So next, I think we move on to the implementation, right? So just wanted to understand, I think Sunny was mentioning a little bit about that we would be creating work items or GitHub issues, like how do we kind of track the implementation? I wanted to understand that a little bit.
Yeah, so how I think it's also specified in the README around RFC. So how we do it, basically we create issues in not in Flux 2, but let's say in the source controller repo, right? Because that's where we need to implement this thing first. And there you create the issue, let's say, implementing OEDC authentication with Azure DevOps repositories, and you add a prefix to the issue, RFC minus 007, I think it is, right? So you just add in parentheses the name of the RFC. Then after we, let's say, complete a work item and we close the issue, and we do, let's say, a source controller release with the with a partial implementation of the RFC, then we have to open a pull request in Flux 2, and all RFCs have a history section right at the end. So we'll add in the history section partially implemented in this release, and you link to the pull request that implemented it. So this kind of RFC will stay in partially implemented for a long time because we have so many things in there. But every time we implement some of it, after we release it, we should go back to the RFC and track history. So if someone comes, reads the RFC, is aware that, hey, we have very shared DevOps in, but not Google Cloud or whatever, right? So it's so people don't have to chase issues and all of that. So yeah, we can start by creating an issue for Azure DevOps, and then me or Sunny or Sule can assign it to you. You can create the issue, and if you create it, we can assign it. If not, if the issue is already there, you can comment on it, and only then we can assign it to you.
Okay, sounds good.
Sounds good?
Yeah. And
Great.
just from a implementation perspective, I think I briefly mentioned on the PR, but I think the plan is to, and let me know if there's anything wrong, but like have a package in like the package repo called auth, and inside that we'll kind of first start with an Azure implementation. And the goal would be, as we add more providers, eventually move the OCI to also use that package. But to start with, have a package auth Azure, and inside that, just start with the implementation to retrieve the Azure DevOps token, which would be used by the Git, like the Git code when it kind of feeds into the bearer token.
So yeah, at the moment we have package OCI auth where we have all the authentication for context-based authentication on provider. At least for Azure and GCP, most of the code you would be able to use. So if you create a new package auth, we could, if you start implementing Azure first, we could duplicate most of the code that is in package OCI auth for Azure into package auth. And we could use this for Git passwordless for the Azure implementation. And at the end, when we will be in feature parity with the other provider, we could switch package OCI auth to use package auth.
Yep, makes sense. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I think that was all that I kind of wanted to discuss. I'll create the issue and I'll keep you all posted on the progress of that.
Cool. So yeah, I think so basically you would have to fork package and source controller, then create this OCI package in your own fork. Then in your fork of source controller, you can do in Go mode, you can point to your package fork, right? So when we review it, we see the auth code and then how it is used in source controller. It helps seeing also the way you use it, so we can decide on the UX of the package, how these functions work together and so on.
Yeah,
But yeah, we
Yep, go ahead.
already have this example in the OCI package, how we have a factory options are added there. So I think if you can try to preserve the structure of the OCI auth package, it should be fine.
Okay. Yep, sounds good. Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
I also wanted to mention about test. There is let me get the link. There is a branch in test infra where we have some Terraform code for provisioning Azure DevOps repository. Now I'm thinking that we don't have an Azure account. We will not be able to run this. But I'll just share it. There is a link. I'm pasting it in the meeting notes. Sanskar wrote some, I think he was preparing for writing some tests. We can add some of these for the tests for the Azure DevOps integration we add.
Yep. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, a good point about the testing. I will take a look at that and I'll see if I can point it to the Azure DevOps repo that I create to kind of test that end to end. Even if there is no Azure DevOps account, I'll test it that way.
We have some specific way of writing the tests, provisioning the infrastructure, and running the actual tests against that infrastructure. You can ask us how that's done. It's mostly in that repository of the infrastructure code.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing. I'll take a look and get back with questions. Thank you.
Adam, do we want to talk about your Cloud Events RFC now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't actually have that much to say on it. I actually just saw. Thank you, Sunny. I saw some reviews you left about 20 minutes ago, so I need to properly look into those. Yeah, mostly on the mapping thing. I think even Sunny pointed it out. So yeah, mostly on the mapping thing, the static kind of mapping that's a set events are towards that CD events. That is something I need to actually go back and talk to people at Ericsson about. As I think even the mapping wasn't as ironclad as people as we expected. So yeah, it definitely looking at the Helm events or the Helm release events has been helpful because those are much more consistent and those have a format so far. So yeah, that's
I looked at how you praise the RFC, and I see you made a correlation between a Flux event and a task run,
yeah.
right? But task runs are CI things. Flux
Yeah,
is not
sorry.
CI.
The events I used might not be as applicable. We actually had a discussion about that. I need to go back and talk with the more well-versed people who in CD events, but yeah, they had some suggestions about that. So that's definitely not kind of that's just an example. I'd say the final kind of event will be different.
Yeah, I did look at CD events some time ago, and there were
Yeah,
there is a
there's a few more.
category.
There's a few much more applicable ones. I just need to have a proper look and consideration about it.
Yeah, yeah. I suggest we focus on the Helm events
Yeah.
and only do the mapping for those first.
Okay. Yep.
Because last time I looked, it really was a one-to-one mapping, but not with a task run with a release, or I don't know how is it called.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah. Yep. Oh, that's fine.
Cool.
I was looking at it more from a Helm point of view because just because Helm has much more structurally defined kind of events and they use the reasons and such.
Yep.
Yep, that's pretty much it for me. I just wanted to bring up that it's kind of open for discussion at the moment.
Thanks. I had a question about the RFC in the text plain text format. There are many comments about the paragraphs. What are they?
Sorry.
Like for every paragraph, there is some comment below it. What is that?
Oh yeah, that that's actually my bad. I think when I made it the first time, I don't know, I must have been tired or something because I accidentally wrote into into where the comments should be. I forgot about that. That was a couple of months ago. That was a complete accident. Yeah, just a brain fart or whatever. I was tired, maybe.
Like some of them or a lot of them were like repetition of what you already added.
Yeah,
So I
I
was
think
confused.
at first I wrote it into the comment, but just confused by markdown or something maybe. But yeah, and then I realized and wrote what I actually meant. So I need to go and recopy the template and change the comments back to what they should be.
And regarding the mapping, do we need all the mappings in the RFC itself, or we can just give some examples and then figuring out the mapping can be done separately after
That's
the
kind of
RFC
what I
gets
was
accepted?
thinking was that kind of in the implementation stages, we'd have a proper discussion about the relevant static kind of mappings.
What do you think,
I know.
Stefan?
I think for Helm we should have the mappings in the RFC.
Part of the
Because
RFC? Okay, that's fine too.
If for install, upgrade, uninstall, and rollback, which are clearly, let's say, actions that any package manager, any software tool out there, if for these actions there is no direct, clear one-to-one relationship with the CD events, I think we should go back to CD events and say, hey, what is this actually for if it doesn't cover the basic operations that you do with any kind of software anywhere on any kind of platform, right? So I think in order to to have that RFC saying, hey, we expose that at CD event. CD events should prove that, you know, it covers the basic things that every software package
could
manager does.
definitely be useful to cover that just in the RFC. Yeah. And one
This
more thing.
RFC
Sorry, go on.
This RFC is not about Helm specifically, right? You just accept this and then we can implement for everything.
It kind of started generic, yeah. I thought maybe keep it generic with a bigger focus on Helm, because Helm is definitely the much more. But yeah,
just the examples can be for Helm, but later we can add it for everything else.
Yeah, definitely. The examples and the current implementation is much more Helm focused because even the group that brought this to us to ask for CD events in Flux, I asked them for sample events and they were mostly Helm events. So, yep.
And one more thing, I was thinking, in Flux we emit a lot of events, and maybe some of those are not needed for.
Yeah,
like you cannot categorize them. Let's say. I think it's okay to not categorize them.
Yeah, or yeah.
You can start with just the obvious ones.
Definitely,
and see
the install succeeded and upgrade succeeded and stuff like that. Yeah. And actually, I'm pretty sure I know the answer is it doesn't, but there is no, just to confirm, there's no events emitted when stuff like, it's just install succeeded. There's no like install started or anything, or
it used to be, and we removed it.
yeah. I think that was brought up at some point. Yep, that was a conscious decision you made to remove that. Yeah.
Yes.
That's fine.
Yeah. So you have the list of reasons in the Helm controller API package. So I would get those out because we need to target Helm release version 2.
Yeah, I think I found those at one point and tabled them.
Okay. So we need to scope it for those.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
This is making me wonder, in our API spec, should we also have a section for CD event types? Like we have section for conditions where we say this condition means this. Should we have a mapping for this event emitted by Helm controller is associated with this event in CD events?
Yeah,
so every API can have it. Every controller can have similar things.
Yeah, that's definitely something to consider. Yeah.
Okay, can think about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we need to document all of this. It needs to be in notification controller docs, but I think it's useful to have it also in Helm controller API docs. So when someone changes anything, they will notice, oh, anyway.
Yeah, that's actually fair. Yeah.
Helm releases V2 changing those conditions. I don't think it will ever happen. But anyway, if you add a new condition, right, and that's also a possibility with all GA APIs, we can only add things, not rename or remove things, but we can add things. So it needs to be there. So when we add a new condition, we have to think about, hey, is this condition, should this condition result in a CD event? What type of CD event and so on, right? And if it's only documented in notification controller, whoever modifies Helm controller will not be aware of those and so on, right? So we definitely have to have it in the docs there as well. Yeah, good point, Sonny, about that.
That will be like more promises that we cannot break.
Right, yeah, I definitely got enough from that. Thank you.
Next, another RFC. I have added the link to the RFC. This is about custom events metadata from annotations. What's his name? I forgot his name. Matthias, he created this RFC. We discussed it maybe a month ago. It's about providing a mechanism by which a user can add some metadata on Flux objects, which would be passed on to the events that notification controller creates. So you add something in Flux object, GitHub or Slack or whatever is on the other end, they receive these metadata. And we had to decide about so we decided to add this metadata in annotations, but we didn't decide what should the annotation value be, the prefix. So this RFC is not completed. It questions about what should it be. It proposes 2 possible API groups for the annotation prefix. One has notifications group, which is for the notification controller. Other is events.flux API group. And we have to decide which one should be better here. I commented that to me, events.toolkit.fluxcd.io seems better because it's not tied to notification controller and you can have anything else.
Oh yeah, we are going to annotate the Kubernetes events with it.
Right.
The fact that, okay, by chance, because there is an alert, it matches a particular object, it gets forwarded by notification controller is just a side effect, right? But annotating events is a thing that is not for notification controller, is for all types of events that the controller emits. So I suggested events. I don't know who suggested notification, but anyway, for me, events is more telling because yes, any event will have those annotations. I think the RFC should be made the examples in the RFC don't really make sense to me. Why would you annotate every single object with the cluster name? Because all these
that
events
use
are
case
emitted.
is invalid in that case, I guess. That they can remove that use case.
Yeah, the actual use case and the actual thing that this RFC solves and solves a really big issue that we haven't figured out how to do it until now is getting in the notification the image tag that image automation bumps.
As an example, as a user story, right?
Yes, so the user story should be like this. I have a helm release with values. And in those values, I have image tags. I don't upgrade the helm chart. It's a generic helm chart. So even if I upgrade the version of the helm chart, is not telling about what app am I deploying now. And I'm using image controller to bump the image tags which are in values. And lots of people are saying, hey, we don't find the events issued by Helm controller useful to us because we use this generic Helm chart. So the app version and chat version tell us nothing. They are 100. We really want alerts with attached to the Helm release event with the image tags. But Helm controller has no way of knowing what exactly from the values you want. And people are saying like, let's write these JSON selectors, wild ideas that we'll probably never implement. Now with this RFC, with this proposal, you can do it like that. You add the image automation marker in the values. So we patch the values, but you also add an annotation, my image /tag, and you put the marker also there. So when image automation updates the hand release, writes the tags into places, one in values, so the app gets deployed, one in annotations, so the event that the Helm controller issues contains that tag value. So people know, oh, okay, now I'm upgrading my app to version 101, and they ignore the char version because it has no meaning to them, right? So I think that should be the use case. That's how the RFC should be written on that direction. And not only, image automation is the example for Flux, but you may have other tools that are, maybe changing YAMLs in Git in an automated fashion, and you want whatever changes are in there to be surfaced in others. So it's more about other things changing, dynamically changing the manifest.
One more thing I noticed, the RFC doesn't say it explicitly. It mentions that we need a prefix, but it doesn't say that if the prefix would be removed when the metadata is sent to the receiver or the provider in this case, right? And I think there's a contributor who asked for this feature first, and they pasted some example of the request body that would be sent. In that, they have the prefix. So event.toolkit.fluxcd.io/deployment ID and the value. Do you think we need the prefix? I don't think we need it. Just say
No,
deployment
we
ID
removed
and
it everywhere.
key value.
Yeah, we definitely remove the prefix everywhere. So the prefix is more about telling the controllers, hey, you should look for any annotations in this format. Then, as with all the other things that we already have as annotations, we remove the known prefix and we send the key value tag. So on Slack, you'll not see events.flux, whatever, you'll see my image tag equals 002 or whatever is the value.
I'll comment about this. Next.
How is the AWS end-to-end testing going, Sunny? You have had time to...
Everything is, and we can discuss about that. AWS integration test. So maybe 2 weeks ago, I had created all the pull requests, but you were not there and nobody was there to make any decision. There is an issue in Flux too, right? Which has all the references to the pull requests. Tests are ready. I tried running them against my fork repository. It was working fine. At the very end, I created a new Terraform set of configurations to manage the AWS account itself. Because we will need to create new AWS accounts. And initially we discussed about some mechanism or some docs that defines how we create and initialize a new AWS account before running the test. So I have all those code ready. And but that was just my idea. I did not get consensus about, is that how you should do it? Like we can set up this in such a way that if we want to give AWS access to any contributor, they can create a pull request in our test infra repository. We'll review it. Once it's merged, automatically they'll get the access. We can revoke it, or we can do anything. But I think at the time Steve was here, he was concerned about security. Like if we keep all these things public, anybody who is trying to or looking to attack, they would be able to see our infrastructure. Then I told them, it's an open source project. We don't have dedicated people to continue maintaining things, we need visibility. If it's private, nobody can see it. Who would maintain it? The burden would be on the people who have access to see the repository. And then he agreed, okay. And he said he would do some review, but I haven't heard anything from him. So it's waiting for reviews and decision about how we manage our infrastructure. Should it be based on Git, or should it be manual? Somebody is running Terraform apply somewhere from their computer.
But running Terraform apply is only once per account, right?
Per AWS account? No, so it's not, it's for managing. It's for day 2 operations answer, not just once. When the first time when you create an account, you have to do a few steps. I've documented it in a pull request. After that, all the day 2 management can be done through CI. We merge something and in GitHub Actions, we can apply
Oh, yeah.
changes.
For sure. Yeah, so creating an account can't be automated, right? Because you need a credit card, you need to wait for that credit card to be approved, whatever. I don't know. It took 24 hours for me when I created the current one. So I would do that. I would create the account, add the credits from AWS to it, which is yet another manual step. Then I would manually run a Terraform apply of something.
You don't have to. No, I have documented it. Like, what do you do? Including things like enabling multi-factor authentication, everything. Should I get the link? There's a pull request and test infra. I have a list of things what you need to do on a fresh account. It doesn't include this credit related things. I'll paste the link in the meeting notes. Pasted the link. That PR has a README, I think. It has a README where there is a section called New Account Initial Setup, where it details about the initial things you need to do. You have to enable certain things, certain services are disabled by default, you have to enable it. And then because certain other things for automatic user account creation. AWS has a new way of managing users. It's not very new, where people will get email from AWS. So we don't have to care about like sharing the secret key. AWS manages all those things. They have a portal, user portal. Those are really nice.
Nice.
And then in this same PR, there is a Terraform main.tf file where all these things are in code. So like user creation, there is a resource in the middle about how I created my user account. So it has my name, my username, an email address. And then when you apply this, I will receive an email address with an invite. So day 2, when we have to add another user, you can just update this Terraform resource and apply through GitHub CI, and they'll get an email invite. This also has at the very end, it has the OIDC identity provider for GitHub that we need for accessing AWS resources from GitHub Actions. So this is once per account. So those things are also managed in Terraform code.
Yeah, this looks great. I'm going to approve this. Yep. I'm all for having the users here. There is no secret info. Okay, it's an email. We sign our commits with an email. So email is nothing. This looks great.
I was waiting for Steve's review. He said he has done similar things before. So he has some ideas about simplifying things. Or we can go ahead.
I don't know, looks very simple to me. Besides the manual steps, which are what they are, but the actual provisioning looks quite straightforward. Administrator group, create the user with the email, and that's it.
So all these are ready, and unlike the setup we did for Azure and GCP, where we are using service accounts, in this we're using OIDC to authenticate. So in GitHub Actions, we don't have to add static credentials. We use workload identity to access AWS from GitHub itself.
Yeah, I know also, I think Google also implemented something similar.
They have a federated workload identity.
Yeah.
And I thought that once we do this, we can do something similar for our GCP account as well.
For the GCP, yeah. Mhm.
Like
Yeah,
management,
for sure.
data management through code, Terraform code.
Yeah. And with OEDC from GitHub Actions, so we don't
that
have
as
to
well.
keep those service account secrets in the Flux CD org anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah, so what are the next steps to finalize the AWS end-to-end test? So we have the end-to-end tests working for the OCI package in package,
OCI plus image reflector.
image reflector. Okay, so what's really missing are the conformance suite in Flux 2.
That's also missing the test itself. Like for OCI and image reflector, we had the tests, but in case of Flux to conformance, we don't even have the tests.
Yeah, so there's the last big thing remaining here, right? Create an EKS cluster, running Bootstrap on it, then having KMS. That's the secret. That's I think the Helm charts OCIs are tested somewhere, are in package.
We have some Helm OCI tests in Flux 2.
No, I mean for AWS, do we?
No, we don't have any AWS tests.
Okay. Yeah, so we need to cover basically ECR, OCI artifacts type Helm and Flux and KMS. So we know for sure customized controller is able to decrypt the secrets.
And what's it called? AWS Nuke discussion that we had, remember? So I kept it as it was using the original AWS Nuke because there were so many other things I needed to work on. So all the other things are done, and I got back to AWS Nuke, and it's still work in progress. But I don't think that's a blocker. We have the tool that can do the cleanup. It's just that I need to rewrite it to use a fork of AWS Nuke. So that's not a blocker for enabling all these AWS infrastructure because we have the tooling. We just have to rewrite it to use another library. So doing that, there are some incompatibilities. I'm working with the maintainer. But we can go ahead, AWS infrastructure.
Cool. So when do you estimate you will start adding tests to package, for example, so we can actually run them on AWS infra?
Pull requests are ready. You just have to merge it whenever you, we can merge it, but then it'll start running AWS GitHub Action in cron. So once you merge it, you also have to run some Terraform on your computer as an administrator of the Flux organization, create certain configurations that are needed for workload identity in GitHub Action. So maybe next week, whenever you're free, I can tell you.
Yeah, let's do it next week. Yeah.
Next topic. So let's say, I wanted to discuss about cache. We are adding a generic cache in package repository. It's almost ready. But the interface, I noticed today that maybe we need to change some more things in the interface. So interface has the cache interface has a resize method and another method, and they don't return any error. And I was proposing maybe we should let them return error, because a lot can happen in our default cache implementations. Whenever there's an invalid input for resize, we say nothing happened. But and if the cache is closed, like you cannot do any operation, even then we just return 0 as if nothing happened, it didn't fail. So I was proposing maybe we should return an error. In our cache implementation, maybe there's no actual error, but if somebody else implements their own cache on top of our interface, and maybe their cache does a remote call, like remote call to a Redis server, we will need something to inform the user that your resize request failed.
So what we do at the moment when we do resize, as you said, we can just resize down. We can increase the capacity of the cache. And what we do when we do resize, if we have deleted items from the cache, we return an integer for the number of items that we have deleted. But yes, we don't return if you don't delete anything. For example, for the cache that can be closed, the expiration cache can be closed, but the least recently used cache cannot be closed. We just return 0 because we haven't deleted any item from the cache. But we don't say that we fail in resizing the cache. That's true. Why we do that at the moment is I think that we should return an error, because for the closed cache, that's not really an issue, because if the cache is closed anyway, if you try to put anything after resizing, it will tell you that the cache is closed. But for the least recently used cache, if you resize and it's not successful, then it means that the next operation, you don't really know what happened. But also, in the list, so yeah, in the least recently used cache, you cannot get any error. It's either you have entered an invalid size because you want to shrink. So if you enter a negative value, you don't do anything, but there cannot be any error because we don't close the least recently used cache. For the expiration cache, the only error you can have is if the cache is closed. The cache is closed, so you cannot do anything to it. It should tell you that the cache is closed, right? Mm-hmm. But anyway, if you do resize and then you try to do any operation in the cache, it will tell you that the cache is closed. So at some point you will get to anyway. What I'm trying to say is you can return an error or resize because we didn't do anything. Yes, we can do that, I guess. But for the least recently used cache, this will be a no op because there cannot be any error. Instead, the only error that you can have is if you enter a negative value today.
My another or thought was, what's the use case for resize? Currently, we don't have any use for it, right? Why was it added? For which use case was it added?
We discussed this with Stefan today. The only use case we see is when we will replace Badger or image reflector controller. We need to be able, when we enter, we put a number of tags in the cache. If the cache is too small or too big, we need to be able to resize the cache when the number of tags change for a given repository.
Yeah, so
Where
Helm
do you
indexes. So for Helm indexes and
tokens.
and tokens, so for Helm indexes, the user actually sets the size with the controller flag. When the user changes the size, the controller will restart, so we don't have to do any dynamic resizing from code. It starts, we create a new cache, we take the size, and that's it. For tokens, we will have a default size and also a flag for it. But given the fact that tokens are paired using workload identity, we'll have one token for OCI, one token for, I don't know, it's one token per external service. So per provider, right? So there are just a couple. Even if you have thousands of I don't know, OCI repos, you'll have just a couple of tokens. So there again, for source controller, we don't need resizing. The only place where resizing would be useful is in image reflector controller, because the size of the cache is determined by the number of custom resources in etcd, the number of image repositories that you can add or remove, right? So if you have 10 image repositories, the size should be 10. If you remove them, maybe we don't have to resize it. But if you add more, we need to increase the size, right? So I'm not saying that we are going to replace Badger tomorrow. Is not a necessity. We can just get rid of this dependency altogether. That's what I thought when I saw Sule's pull request. I said, oh, this thing can also help us there as well. But the goal of this implementation right now is to have token caching as fast as possible in Flux before we do the Azure DevOps and other things that rely on caching. There is also a big issue in customized controller. If you saw, also with Azure KMS, some users are hitting a rate limit around decryption. And we thought that, oh, no one will hit those limits when we first implemented it. It's okay, we don't need caching, but looks like, I don't know, they have thousands of customizations, all with decryption enabled. And when you have thousands of things, we make thousands of calls in a very short period of time to get the same key, basically, right? But we invalidate it every time because we should have cached it. So the urgency right now is to get this thing into customized controller and source controller as soon as possible. So what I propose is, let's do the resizing as it is now with a comment, I don't know, experimental feature or whatever. This has some limitation, and we can iterate when we implement caching everywhere and we get to image reflector controller, we can rethink the resizing API, and we can break it and do major release of that package. Cache v2, whatever, right? But I think we should not delay the caching implementation, because it actually solves some really nasty problems for users that we have no resolution today. So instead of thinking about dynamic resizing and so on or for a thing that we don't actually need, Bolt DB does all of that on its own. It does great. No one has complained about it. It's just me thinking of, well, we can get rid of a dependency, right?
In that
Yeah.
case, why don't we just not add resize today?
No,
We'll add it when we need it
no.
in image reflector.
If you do that, because resize is part of the interface, if you don't add it, and people will like start relying on it, then if you add it at some other version, it means you can break things if you change the way, because you want to add error. If you want to add error in the resize return parameter, we should do it now so we don't break things. Well, we can, I mean, it's experimental, we can still break things. But if you know what you want
it's
to
not
do
even
resize,
needed in it's not needed in customers controller, right?
it's not
And-
needed in the source controller and in customers controller, that's true. But tomorrow we will need it, so we can extend the interface then, but I think that could be a breaking change. That's what I'm saying.
I don't have like any thoughts about dynamic resizing. That would be based depending on the implementation detail of the cache. But if the interface allows you to return an error, nothing else is needed. And I think that this kind of feature proof, you return number of things deleted plus an error. When you expand it to resize, you don't have to return any number. You're just expanding and deleting things. You just say if there is an error, there was an error.
Yeah.
But when you delete, you return an error, how many you delete. Oh, you return a number, how many you deleted. I think that's fine enough.
That's straightforward. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. It's just that, yeah, that's fine. I mean, yeah, I don't really have an issue with that. That's fine to me.
Like just defining the interface. Implementation about dynamic resizing can be done later.
Yeah.
And what about the list keys method? List keys doesn't have any error. It returns a slice of string. Should it also have an error?
List keys is just, one second, I'm going to the code. The only thing that list keys does is that it look at the map, the cache map, and the number of keys and run it. I mean, the only way you could have an error is if you don't have any map. This means that you didn't call the new function to initialize your cache.
So I was saying all these operations may have some kind of failure. Maybe those failures are not present in our default implementation. But if the interface leaves space for an error, it will be complete for any implementation.
Yes. I understand what you say.
So all the store operations have a way to return error feedback to the caller.
Just to make it evolutive in the future.
Any other cache implementation?
Yeah. Okay. Why not? Yeah.
Okay. Resolved. Another related thing in the other PR, which uses this cache in OCI auth package, the pull request breaks the current signatures of the OCI auth functions. So users like, or the known users like, what's her name? Kynor, how do you say it? Kynor. The tool. Kyverno, sorry.
Kyverno.
They use our OCI package. So if we break the function signature, they have to update. So I was proposing, why not just this OCA auth package will be deprecated in a few months when we have the new auth package. So temporarily, why don't we create new methods for these new login functions that return expiration data as well, or expiration time. So instead of modifying login function, we create another function called login with expiry. And only the new code, those who are aware of expiry or cache, they will use this new login functions. Existing users of those methods in that package will continue to use the old implementation.
So you're talking about
776 pull request.
Yeah, but the function is not changing.
Changing the exported method's signature, return types. We returned the authenticator and an error before. Now we are returning authenticator, duration, and an error.
Oh, authentication, yep.
So should we have a separate new functions for
Yeah,
this?
okay, I see, yeah. Good.
Okay.
I'm thinking.
And in the new auth package, we can introduce login always with expiration.
But so what you're saying is that you can move this in the new package and here have a new method so we don't break usage
No.
in Kafka.
That can be done in the future, but today we introduce new functions in the same package called login with expiration.
that's what
I've
okay,
left the
got
comment
it.
about it.
What version are we on the package?
I don't know. Somebody
OCI,
got-
everything is 0 something because
So,
OCI
yeah, so
is not.
It's
we
not a
can
big deal
break
if you
it,
break
but our packages or our package modules are not never going to be one, right? Only Flux controllers will be one.
Okay, I can come up with a new function that wrap the login function and add things, for example, something like this. Yep.
Okay.
If you don't want to break Kafka.
Yeah, login with expiry sounds great. I don't see any issues with it. It's not that much code to duplicate there.
Yes.
And yes,
We can just call it.
when we create package auth, we'll just have login, and because it's a brand new thing, it will basically reuse login with expiry, or how we want to call it, with caching.
Yeah. Right. We have to tell Deepti about this once you start implementing it.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, her implementation has to use the cache.
Yes.
Let's try and move fast with the caching things next week.
Yes.
I'm done with reviewing that. I can approve it once we have this error return in the interface.
Well, what I'm going to do is, I have already fixed it locally, haven't pushed yet. I'm going to push this, and I will look at the interface to make sure we can have error. And then I think that's it for now.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I can just approve it. I checked everything. Nothing else.
Right. Well, thank you for the big review. Nice review.
Topics over.
We are on time.
Yeah, we have Tamara, Gregoire, and Eugene. Maybe you want to share?
Hey everyone. I just had a quick check-in that the KubeCon Salt Lake City deadline was on Sunday. We rallied to try to get a few people in. I also got a submission in with Zscaler, which was pretty exciting. We're going to actually do it as a tutorial with a couple of Zscaler people because they're showing how they deploy models into production using Flux. It's pretty cool. And they actually kind of have solved a problem that I've been hearing about for like 8 years of people being able to find effective ways to get models in the form of Python notebooks up into production. And secondly, that notebooks themselves don't have version controlling. So they made that happen as well. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
And then I was going to do another one on, how to make sure your project is successful after the company dies. But for the first time ever, they changed the deadline from Pacific time to Mountain time. And I had a busy evening, so I had to get back to it. And so when I went to go submit it, it was already passed. And then I sent a bunch of emails going, this is crazy. Like Paris, I submitted for Paris, and I recall that being Pacific time. And they were just like, oh, let's just try next time. So anyway, that topic was an additional one anyway, but still, it was the
You
same.
can do it for London, right?
Yes, I guess I forgot that London is next one. That'll be a good incentive. Gregoire, anyone else asked?
Wait a second. Yeah, in fact, I'm just here because I was looking at at some stuff on Flux, and I found one of my early RFC. As I was looking at that, I was like, hey, I remember there was some meeting, so I just here to listen.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, and what I was looking for is the status on digest with auto.
Image automation.
Yeah, exactly. Not an easy one. But yeah, on my company, we were thinking about image signaling, and when you do that, if you put validation a controller on your Kubernetes, sometimes the validation controller wants you to use digest and not tag.
Mm.
So in this case, I was like, if we go there, it would be it would be funny with Flux.
Yeah, I mean, we have in roadmap for the next minor release to do image automation, to bring image automation to GA. And the last thing on our list for being able to do that is finalizing what Max started with patching, being able to say, instead of setting the tag, set the digest. And we have much of the code done in image reflector. We had some issues with image automation, but Sunny in the new version of image automation, which was released in 2.3, basically solves that issue because now image automation can reflect any change it has done in the repo. Doesn't matter if it doesn't look, oh, it's a tag, it's the image and the tag, whatever, it's a change. So with that improvement, we can ship digests and have the same, alerting, exactly what's changed and so on. So yeah, hopefully we'll probably talk soon with Max around it. And if he can't take that, restart that effort, we have to find someone to revive his pull request. But I think the development effort is quite minimal to finalize that.
Yeah, I saw. I didn't know there was this pull request, so I'm happy with that. I will check because reading some stuff, I was like, oh yeah, but with digest, you have to take care about if it's ARM, if it's Intel chip,
No.
Yeah, so it's quite.
No, you don't. So how is the OCI spec made? When you push a multi-arch image,
Mhm.
we don't look at the arch digest. We are going to take the digest of the index. So the OCI artifact has an index, which has a digest. And then each arch has its own index, which is referenced from this one. If you put in your deployment spec the digest of the index, containerd knows how from that index to find, your ARM64
okay, so you could
or
use.
internet. So yeah, that's a non-issue.
Yeah, okay.
It
So
was that was an issue back when Kubernetes was using Docker, but with
Yeah,
containerd, that's no longer the issue. It's all solved through the
yeah, and I
OCI
guess
specs.
yeah, and I guess with Docker Hub, there's also an issue because they not follow exactly the spec, I guess. If I remember
No,
correctly.
they moved on OCI 1.0 2 years ago or 1.5 years ago. So no, it will work with
Okay.
Docker Hub.
Anyway,
Yeah,
I know my
no.
my registry is OCI, so there's no issues there.
Yeah, those
But,
are all the issues that Docker finally solved. So Docker Hub is now OCI compatible 100%. There is no issue because it works with Flux push. The Flux push command, which creates OCI artifacts, and we rely on
yes.
OCI 1.0. And Docker Hub shipped that, I think, 1.5 years ago, 2 years now. So it's actually solved. There will be no issues there.
Okay, so good news.
Yeah. Okay, we are over time.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, cool. Tam, so do you know when will you know if the talk got in or not?
Oh, I documented it, but I don't know off the top of my head. I just know that I have the dates, or I'm going to track when we can apply for scholarships, because it always comes
Right.
before. Like I would wait to
Yeah,
find
yeah.
out whether my paper got accepted and then find out the deadline already passed. So I'm currently just tracking to make sure we don't miss applying for funding.
Cool. Great. Okay. Yeah, I really hope the talk gets in. It should. I mean, it has all the nice things, right? It's the combination of cloud native technology with enabling AI stuff. So it should check all the boxes.
Yeah.
Tutorial, more than one people.
Yeah, exactly.
Full technology.
Yes. And as far as I know, Pinky and Lee are committed, so we'll see who else might be.
Awesome.
Good. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's nice seeing you.
Yeah, it's good seeing you too.
Okay, we can end here.